How do you do, Exiles? We are on our second character, and it is a Righteous Fire Elementalist. I had this interesting, I don't even know if it's interesting, but I did have an idea to do Wave of Conviction of Tartar Sauce on a cast while channeling setup, right? And run RF at the same time. So really the RF is kind of the mainstay. And then, you know, the Wave of Conviction is essentially a pseudo utility, pseudo damage support setup, and a Wave of Conviction. So I think at the end of the day, it'll be an RF at 6-link helmet, and then a 6-link utility / damage Wave of Conviction setup. And I'll kind of go into that and my idea behind it on why I think it's one of the better ways to do it right now. And we're, luckily we have this skill even available to us. Sorry, this is like I just recorded this map, so sorry for like the poor presentation of it. So here in a little bit we're gonna swap to the hideout and we'll go like fully into the build. Leveling with this was an absolute breeze. It was my second time leveling RF, I think, maybe third, and so it took me a little bit to just kind of work out some stuff and figure out how I wanted to do it. I don't have a POB or anything for this. I'm just kind of doing this off the dome because I can't be bothered to spend hours and hours in POB, and I would rather just level the character and figure out if it's for me or not. That's kind of the way I do things, which is probably why I have way too many hours on this game. So yeah, leveling was very easy. Wave of Conviction is ridiculously good. It does hit twice, so the less damage component of the penalty, I guess, of cast while channeling isn't nearly as severe. It doesn't feel like. We tried multiple setups. We did like a minefield, high intensity or high impact mine support setup, which I think is going to be incredibly strong because that essentially causes each mine to hit twice. I think that particular setup would go really hard on Saboteur personally. And we did a few little setups, a few different setups. We did an Arcanist brand setup that was like full utility Wave of Conviction with just, completely disregarding the damage. And at the end of the day, the way the Ascendancy works, I don't think that setup is really going to be an option. So we went back to the cast while channeling setup, and I don't know, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to end up scaling everything or what our defenses are going to be, because defenses are definitely a question, and I'm already spread pretty thin on the passive skill tree. We got most of the damage, but I think we still have a very, very long way to go on this. So I'm going to kill this boss, and then we're going to hop straight into like how the build works and how it functions. And I mean, as you can see here, the bossing damage for just any maps, really not that bad. I would give it a solid B+. It's not awful, but it's not like the greatest thing in the world. So yeah, I'm going to swap over. So here we are. I'm on like a rink-a-dink blue, bunch of res, a really terrible shield, terrible neck, just a couple of res rings. I mean, I just got a belt. I ran the entire campaign without a belt because I totally forgot. I just got this in Act 10. And just some whatever. Like, this gear is awful. It's really quite terrible. Now, I had this idea, right, because I remember trying RF before, and I could never get Fire Trap to proc my Heart of Destruction, ever. Even though it has a hit component, it never, ever would proc Heart of Destruction. And that really kind of irked me. And so I was like, you know what? What if we do a cast while channeling setup for Tartar Sauce, and then Heart of Destruction is always up all the time, never a question about it. The downside is we have to use Cyclone, but we can work around that. That can be something that we kind of feel out. And the main thing is Shaper of Flames, right? So our hits always ignite, all damage can ignite, which is quite nice. But the main thing is enemies ignited by you have 40% of their fizz converted to fire, right? So we're at 81 fire. We're about to be at 82 because we're about to grab this little joint right here. And so the wording is a bit differently. It's a very conditional conversion ascendancy, whereas Cloak of Flame is not conditional. It's you just have it, which is nice. I think it's I think this plus Cloak of Flame is about 64% conversion, fizz to fire, that is. And so I was thinking, like, what, Fire Trap is not going to be, I mean, I guess if you link it to Ignite Prolift, or you have some kind of Prolift, then yeah, it would be fairly efficient in its conditional behavior. However, I think Wave of Conviction is the better way. I think it's going to be just as much damage, if not more. I could be wrong on that, but I find that it double hits. I find that it actually does quite a bit of damage. Now that's with the nerfed state of Fire Trap. It may end up being that because we have the penalty from cast while channeling, that it ends up doing less damage just because of the inherent penalty that we're getting. But I think we have really incredible uptime, right? We have the supreme ability to run a curse on hit ring that auto curses, and then we have auto exposure from the gloves. And because Wave of Conviction's a hit and it's always going off every 0.4 seconds, I never have to worry about cursing. I never have to worry about exposure. They're fully 100% perma up, baked into the build. It's guaranteed damage. It's consistent damage. And then, we can run, in a 6-link, we have ideally this setup plus life tap plus like life on hit or something. I don't really know. Like we also have combustion on this setup as well, right? So that's another 10% negative fire res. So that's another non-conditional, right? Because it's always going to be igniting because of our ascendancy. And so we have 3 things that are always up 100% of the time, and it just is a real feels good utility setup. It might not be as much damage, but I think compared to Fire Trap, which I think is going to be less efficient in its ascendancy kind of condition. I think if you spread everything out, we're cursing everything white, blue, yellow, unique, all across the board, no matter what. We don't have to self-cast anything. I just think it's a much better setup, and I think it makes way more sense. Now, the only downside is we're running Cyclone, so we're going to be a little bit slower. But that can be helped through a really good silver. That can be helped with Onslaught. There's a lot of different ways we can get the Stampede boots. There's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, and so that's kind of was my main thought process of going with Wave of Conviction over anything else. And so far, the setup has worked very, very, very well. And since we're converting most of our fizz to fire, right? Because we're doing what? It's 40% from the ascendancy, and then plus another 24 from the additive from Cloak of Flame, which we're absolutely going to be running. There's no question about that. And then let's just say you have like a base of 9 for the helmet and another base of 9 for the chest piece. And then we're looking at 82% conversion to fire, which is really, really kind of insane. Really kind of nuts. And I if I'm not mistaken, please somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I believe you can get LE to Fizz conversion on both the helmet and the chest piece implicit. But really, now that I'm thinking about it, I just put my foot in my mouth. We're going to be running the Cloak of Flame, so it's actually -9. So it's really 73% conversion. And then, depending on what shield we run, we could run the Searing Exarch shield for maybe another 20%, if that's the route we want to go. I don't think that's the route I'm going to go, so I think we're going to be stuck with about 73% because there's a couple of really, really, really good RF shields out there. And I one that I'm really kind of interested in, I think kind of works for this build, is this shield right here. It gives us like a really extreme amount of spell block. It gives us spell damage. We get all res, which is just always nice. It really helps our gearing. We're not truly beholden to a bunch of res on our gear. We get the 4 all res, which will help cap us to 90. And I don't really necessarily care about blocking attack damage because 73% of our fizz is going to fire. I mean, we're going to be sitting real pretty on our fizz hit. And we're going to still have some armor to also help mitigate. And so I think Sappho's Frame is kind of an insane choice on this build. And it really, really reduces the passive skill tree pressure on trying to get that 75% spell block. And I think this is going to be one of the best ways to bring forth a bit of extra defense on this build, because coupled with, I think we're running, what are our orders right now? We have Purity of Elements, which I think I'm going to end up dipping on. I don't know if I necessarily, we're already going to be immune to shock. I'm going to be immune to chill, and ignites are not going to hurt us. So I don't necessarily think I really need Purity of Elements. I'm running it now because I don't have any of that set up. I'm not immune to chill yet, and I really would like to be immune to chill. And so I think this is eventually going to go by the wayside, and we'll probably just replace it with Malevolence or some other aura that I just really haven't decided on just yet. And then Purity of Fire and Tempest Shield, right? So Tempest Shield's going to give us a great deal. I can't remember what it gives us. I think it's like 30 some odd. So 30 plus 30, that's 60. We only need another 15 spell block. That's pretty easy to get. That's really easy to get. And so that really reduces the amount of pressure on our passive skill tree that can go to other things like life and defense and probably some more damage. So I think the next 10 levels, we're level 66 right now. We come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We come up into this area right here, which is really quite fantastic. And you saw before, like, our area of effect is quite good. And you guys saw before, right? Our Righteous Fire is, it's pretty decent AoE. We're not max level or anything. And this is as big as it is because of the Flame Golem, right? We get the 20% increased area of effect. We're going to get another 60 from Heart of Destruction. And then, if we really wanted to, we could come up here to Amplify and get another probably 20%. I don't know if we necessarily need the third one. But we definitely have the AoE that I think we're going to want. And then the last thing I really need to worry about is two things. Is the spell and the spell block and the fizz conversion going to be enough defense? And if it's not, we need to figure out something else, be it timeless jewel stuff, shenanigans, or like what we need to do. And then the second part is we have to have endurance charges. I think just base level, we have to have some sort of endurance charge generation. And what I came up with was endurance charge and urgent orders. This is a real Band-Aid solution. I think most likely what we're going to do is once we get to this area right here and get some things worked out in this area, I'm probably going to end up dipping on these points and going down here to grab the mastery in this area, because I think this is going to be worth quite a bit more than our quick recovery, because we really don't need the mana regen. We'll head up to our cluster and we'll just run an Enduring Composure, right? I think that's probably going to be the best option for endurance charge generation. And then we can use the Enduring Cry setup specifically for bosses to make sure that we're always at max endurance charge while we're fighting bosses. I think that's going to be very important. I don't necessarily want to get hit when I'm bossing, so I think it's important to have a setup for bossing, even though this I think is going to end up being more of a mapper. Another good thing about these golems is we get the 20% defenses. We're getting the dot multi. We're getting the extra chaos damage, right? I'm positive 12 chaos res. That almost never happens on a league start unless you're actively going for chaos, like resist. One of the best thing, I was really concerned, like, man, how am I going to sustain? How the hell am I going to sustain my Wave of Conviction? Because it's going off so much. Now, Granted, this is a 4-link. We're going to have 2 extra multipliers on it to ensure that life tap is always up so we can keep our righteous fire damage up. However, with the primordial bond scaling and kind of probably some further scaling through megalomaniacs possibly down the line, because we get 15.5 mana regen that's being scaled 200% currently, this issue has essentially solved itself through the use of Golem. It's ridiculous. I don't have to worry about mana like ever. It is amazing. Like, the Golems make this build phenomenal. They really do. I think it looks like we're at about 30k right now, Righteous Fire. And so far, so good. The build is a crap ton of fun. And I haven't even gone into what we can do on the Merc. There's so many options. There's Legacy of Fury. There's Comb's Heart, or there's Zoth's Blood, or whatever the neck piece is that covers enemies in Ash. There's I can run Determination and then Malevolence on a Merc, or vice versa. I could run Haste to be fat. Like, there's so many avenues to make RF Elementalist be just incredibly fun and incredibly tanky and just all this types of stuff. So I think eventually we will put it into a POB and really fine tune the kinks. But so far, yeah, this is going to be the build that we're working on. This is going to be the build that we're going to try and take to the end game next. And then we're just, we're going to keep working on the Glad. I'm going to buy 20 logbooks tonight, and we're going to do a crap ton of raw crafting. And I'll probably be live. I may or may not do a video. I'm not 100% sure. Sitting on 300 chaos, 6 div. Life is good. Things are pretty. And yeah, we're getting it done. So, guys, I appreciate y'all being here. If you guys like this content, if you like to see my ideas for builds and how I kind of think things through and kind of work things out, please, by all means, like, subscribe, and especially share the video with people. I'd like to try and get to 2K subs this season, this league. That would just make my day. So any exposure I can get from you guys is a great deal of help. So I appreciate y'all being here. I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of the day. Be good, take care of yourselves, and God bless.